Yo, welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet Violet VGC video. I'm your host, Jose Rocks VGC. Today we're going to get into another episode of Journey Through VGC. The current format we're in is Regulation C. Y'all ready? Let's get into it.
Alright, so I want to take a second to pause there. If you're wondering why my voice sounds so low in that opening scene, is because I'm actually doing a voiceover. So when I was recording my Ampharos team video, what happened was my computer had turned off and it reset some of my settings, and I did not realize that my mic was not recording my voice while I was recording this video. So I did get the video, and it was a lot of fun matches with this team, and I wanted to still keep them, but I didn't have any sound to it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do a voiceover, and pretty much this is a little bit different from what I'm usually doing, but I'm gonna break down the team. But I also want to just dive into some of the things and some of the decisions that I was making while I was building this not while I was building this team, but pretty much while I'm playing these games. What was going through my mind when I picked some of these choices, and what I could have done better to better take control of some of the games that I was in. So starting to go over the team, starting with Ampharos. Why would you want to use Ampharos? Ampharos is deceptively bulky. It is an electric type, so it's only weak to ground, which is why we have the flying Tera on it. Electro Web allows you to have the speed control. You don't really need it, but for booster energy, Iron Bundle, or other booster energy Flutter mains, Electro Webbing them and Thunder Waving them helps you outspeed them. And the idea behind this plus the Flutter main is that what you really want to do is spread statuses around your whole team, right? So Ampharos wants to paralyze things. Glimmora wants to poison things, right? And then you can always come in with Flutter main in the end game, and you want to click booster energy to get your speed, and then you want to click Tera into your ghost type Hex, which is going to do massive damage to things that are paralyzed or poison, or you can be putting them to sleep with Yawn. So these three have the status conditions that want to help Flutter main in the end game. And Flutter main, once everything's paralyzed or poisoned, can pretty much outspeed everything and one hit KO a lot of things with Ghost Tera Hex, right? If you don't use your Tera or anything else. Substitute is just to give you ways to play around teams that might want to play passive in the end game and go for protects, and you can kind of punish that with a substitute. And then we have Moonblast over Dazzling Gleam because we just want to get the most damage since we're not Fairy Tera, and we don't want our Fairy type attacks to be doing minimum damage with just Dazzling Gleam with no Tera, right? So we want to get the most out of that with the Moonblast. Glimmora here is Focus Sash. That's so you always guarantee if you're going up against physical attackers that you get both sets of spikes up. It's going to be max speed, max special attack. It is modest nature, so you're hitting very hard with energy balls that's super effective into things, as well as your poison gem. And Mortal Spin is to help you get the status up so that Flutter main can go for Hex. Ting Lu, this is a very bulky Ting Lu. It has no attack investment. It's max HP. Almost halfway, about 100 investment into the defense, and the rest is dumped into special defense. It's very bulky. It's really good leading next to Dondozo. And the idea behind these two is that you're very good on the special side, and then physically, they're both naturally physical defensive, and you can just go for double fissures. You can go for wave crash. You go for ruination, chip things down, and chipping things down also helps your Flutter main and your Tatsugiri if you have them in the back. Just pick up KOs on things that doesn't have that much HP left, and you can also go for ruination into wave crash to KO other Ting Lu. That combo always picks up the KO as long as they don't Tera. And this Dondozo is Grass Tera. The idea behind Grass Tera is to help you get around a Mungus Spore, so Mungus can't put you to sleep. And I do apologize about my voice. I am a little bit under the weather, but I still wanted to go ahead and get this video out. So Ting Lu is Water Tera. It's good Tera. You don't get around Freeze Dry, but it does help you, defensively against a lot of other things to hit you for neutral. It's a pretty good Tera on it. And another fun thing about this team, which I will showcase at the end of the video, is Tatsugiri. It's Storm Drain, which is really good into Palafin. It makes Palafin not be able to hit your team at all, which Palafin is going to always want to come because it's going to want to haze these two. But these two, this isn't the Commander Tatsugiri, so you're not trying to combine these two. but your opponents will play like you are because they have to respect it, right? And it allows you to avoid water type attacks into Ting Lu and Glimmora as well. It is Dragon Tera, so you can, if you save your Tera in the end game and you don't need it on Flutter Man, you could go for Dragon Tera with Draco Meteor, which does incredible amounts of damage to everything that doesn't resist it. Icy Wind, Muddy Water, and then Tera Blast just to get some consistent dragon moves. If you know you don't need to hit the Draco Meteor, you want to be a little bit more consistent, and you still have your Tera, you can go for the Tera Blast from that point. So that's pretty much the team. I want to go ahead and get into some of these battles. This was a really fun team to use. I'm gonna make another video with it, and I will make sure that I do have my voice active when that video is recording. But for now, we're just gonna go over this team, go through this team. So we can go ahead and probably skip ahead to the battles. I think they take place in about another couple seconds. I don't want to skip too far ahead. But if you guys are here, let's go ahead and answer the question of the day while you're waiting. What's your favorite Gen 2 Pokemon? This question is going to be inspired by us using Ampharos. Ampharos is it's not my favorite Gen 2 Pokemon, but I felt like I just wanted to try something different. And I was curious as to how good it can be, so I came up with this set on my own to kind of give Ampharos some viability, right? And it worked out for me. So I did, edit through some of this so we can get quickly into the battle. So our first battle is going to be up against Sid. So Sid has Amoonguss, Goldengo, Grimmsnarl, Iron Hands, Oranguru, and Ting Lu. So let's see. What did I go with in this battle? Yeah, and I actually recorded this a couple of days ago. So I as the battle goes on, I'm gonna just give some criticism to myself on how I played it, and if it's anything I feel like I could have done better, then that's what I'm gonna speak on. So I did go. Looks like I went Ting Lu Donzo. Let's see. What else did he choose? I'm saying he choose, but I'm actually talking about myself. Yeah, so I ended up bringing Tatsugiri. I left Glimmora because I didn't feel like Glimmora was that good, especially into Goldengo. It kind of makes me, not want to lead. Most times, if they lead Goldengo into Glimmora, it can hit you on a special side, so you're not getting up your spikes, and also you can't poison it, right? And also, didn't feel like Ampharos did much for me this match. So my opponent. So the funny thing about this Dondozo team is, oddly enough, Dondozo is slower than Amoonguss, and it's because I made this Dondozo. I put him on this team a while ago, and it was meant to be like a Trick Room variant to give me like a good Trick Room answer, and so I made it minimum speed. So it does get outsped by Amoonguss that like don't have that aren't min speed and have like a little bit of speed investment. So my opponent goes for the Safe Protect and wants to spore one of my Pokemon, right? And I go for the immediate Fissure into that just to try to remove it. And my Dondozo gets pushed to sleep. So that turn, went a lot better in my opponent's favor. But the thing about it, Amoonguss outspeeding me, is that I instantly, burn a turn to sleep. So that was good for me. So now my opponent knows I have Fissure. What's he gonna do about it? No. So I go for Fissure into that slot again. And then I just yawn Amoonguss, just to force it to have to switch around. So he does swap out. And he brings in Iron Hands, which is risky, right? Because he just saw me click Fissure into that slot. And he did not go for Rage Powder. So I immediately just KO his Iron Hands, which is unfortunate for him. But you know that's why you have Fissure on this set. And we do wake up and we end up getting the yarn off, which is beautiful for us. But at this point, my opponent doesn't really have. We know he has a Rangaroo on the back. Amogus is on the field, so that's two Pokemon that can't really damage the two that I have on the field. And his other one is Ting Lu. So at this point, he just really doesn't have that much offense, right? His Ting Lu is going to be like the biggest carry, but even that one, you know, can't easily break through to both of these unless it has Fissure itself, right? Which could make this game a little bit more interesting. Alright, so Amogus swaps back. And there's a Rangaroo. So Amogus doesn't want to take a nap. I burn a turn of sleep with Ting Lu. And he just goes for Earthquake. He dodged it with Telepathy and it hits both of mine, but it doesn't do that much damage, right? Funny enough, both of my Pokemon have 255 HP, so they both take about the same from that. But now we young on Rangaroo. So I still have, you know, Tatsugiri and Flutterman in the back just waiting to come in. So I'm in a really good spot at this point. So I'll go for another Fissure there. Ruination there. And I yawn a regular. But it stays in, so I waste my my yawn. And that was reading like the Amogus switching in. But it gets another Earthquake off here. Doesn't do too much. Ting Lu wakes up. I get a Ruination off. Does half. Now, had I went for Wave Crash into the slot right here, this game would have instantly been over, right? Because Wave Crash KOs from that range, which is kind of what I was telling you in the preview. So Rangaroo takes a nap, but now I'm in a really good spot. Right. And funny enough, I have Stealth Rock on the Assault Vest set, and that's because when I put this team together, I changed some of the moves on Ting Lu, and I meant to click Rock Slide when I did Remember Moves, and I accidentally clicked Stealth Rock. So it's actually not Stealth Rock on this this slot. I actually don't realize this until the next game, and then I take a break and I go fix it. And so the following games after the next game, I have Rock Slide, which is, you know, comes in handy in some of my matches. But I didn't notice it this game that it was on there. I didn't know because I didn't actually have a need to like really click Rock Slide or Stealth Rock. But I noticed it in the next game when I wanted to click Rock Slide, and I was like, oh my god, it's Stealth Rock. But the runner code that's attached to this team in the video is actually gonna have the, you know, the correct set. And like I said, after the second game, it's gonna be Rock Slide anyway. And you see Wave Crash KOs from that range. Yeah, so at this point, my opponent just doesn't have any offense left for the Rangaroo and the Amogus. So I don't even have to use my two back Pokemon at this point. I mean, Amogus could go for Pollen Puff to KO Dondozo. And I tear it there just so I didn't go down to another Earthquake. There's Ruination there. I'm debating whether I just want to, you know, damage that or just get rid of the Rangaroo immediately. And then my opponent forfeits. So we win that one, which is beautiful for us. And let's see how that gets us. fast forward a little bit. Maybe I skipped past it. And that was my first one with this team. So as you see, I got the ribbon. So that got us to 58. And let's jump into our next match, which is against Tyler. What you got for us, Tyler? So Tyler had Chi-Yu, Flutter main, which is, a very scary combo to go up against. Threatens a lot of special damage turn 1. And then he has Great Tusk, Murkrow, Gyarados, and Among Us. So this team is usually like, Sunny Day, Tailwind, Haze, and like Brave Bird or Foul Play on Murkrow. And the Sunny Day assists with Great Tusk being Choice Scarf, Flutter main being Choice Specs, and Chi-Yu either being Safety Goggles or Focus Sash. And then Murkrow's either Eviolite or Focus Sash. So if Murkrow's Focus Sash, then Chi-Yu's most likely Safety Goggles, right? But if Murkrow's Eviolite, then Chi-Yu's most likely Focus Sash. And then Scarf and Specs are always on Tusk and Flutter main on these type of teams. And then and Among Us and Gyarados just helps him fill out his Fire, Water, Grass core. So that's the idea behind why those two are on there. It just gives him some good switch ins, right? So he's not just stuck on the field. Alright, so let's get into this match with Tyler. This is another game that I chose to leave Ampharos on the bench. And I believe every game after this, Ampharos came to every game. But I just didn't feel like it would do too good into this team. And as you see, he led Great Touch, right? Which will force me to have to Tera immediately. And I didn't want to have to burn my Tera turn 1. So if I remember correctly, my opponent goes for and this is when I wanted to click Rock Slide because I wanted to deal some damage to the Murkrow. And then I was like, oh wow, this is Stealth Rock. I did not mean to have Stealth Rock on this moveset. But like I said, after this match, I changed it up to Rock Slide. So I wave crash and yawn that slot. So I did think he was gonna go for Sunny Day on Tailwind, right? Out of fear of me switching in Tatsugiri for my Dondozo. But then he goes for Body Press. So if I would have Terra into water there, I wouldn't have took that much damage from that, right? But I was a bit discombobulated after realizing that I didn't have Rock Slide and it was Stealth Rock. So I was kind of playing a little bit suboptimal, like the first couple turns of this game. And so I Ruination there expecting a switch. I think like I said, the first couple turns I was playing suboptimal, so I actually don't think I went for the best plays this turn. Yeah, I went for Ruination and Wave Crash, and that was like reading maybe a Flutter main switch in or something like that. And this was another turn I could have Terrored, to not take that much damage, but we missed the Ruination. And Ruination plus Wave Crash might have been able to pick up the KO. Yeah, definitely would have picked up the KO from there. But to be honest, I believe I should have yawned that slot, reading the switch out, and Ruination to Murkrow. So he lets his Great Tusk take a nap, which made me think it was Lumberry, but it wasn't. And I'd never really see Lumberry on Tusk. And I'm just looking through my moves. At this point, I'm like, man, I wish I had Rock Slide. But At this point, my best bet into getting rid of Murkrow is just going for, Ruination into it. Stump and Tantrum him and yawn Murkrow. And Murkrow goes for Foul Play. Does decent amount of damage, 43 damage. We'll get rid of Great Tusk, but now my opponent gets a free switch in, right? Alright, nearest the Flutter Mane. So here's what we was worried about. Now this Flutter Mane is extra scary with the special attack boost. If it has Thunderbolt in its choice specs, right? I'm like really threatened with my Dondozo here. And Tatsugiri is not good for me here for the fact that once Tailwind is up, Flutter Mane outspeeds my Tatsugiri. It can just Dazzle and Gleam it. And so he finally goes for the switch, which I don't like because now Murkrow can get like a Tailwind up later in the game. But he brings out a Mungus, which can't take advantage of the Tailwind against what I have in the back, right? He goes for the Tera on Flutter Mane. Knocks out my Ting Lu, does a big amount of damage to Dondozo. And then I yawn Flutter Mane. Now here's where I try to make a read, if I remember correctly. And I did not like that I made this read, but I did go for it because I thought it was the best play at the time. And Tailwind is still up on my opponent's side. So I don't want to bring out Tatsugiri and let it just faint to a Dazzling Gleam, right? So I bring out Flutter Mane, trying to bait that I'm going to switch it back out, maybe into Tatsugiri and give Dondozo a boost, even though I know it's not Commander Tatsugiri. So I go for the Protect here, right? Yep. And then, so what I'm doing here, which end up, not even helping me, I go for the Tera read and a switch out by Flutter Mane back into Murkrow, and then Among Us sporing my Dondozo slot, so I can't keep yawning it, right? So I go for the Tera reading that so he can't spore me. And he ends up not switching his Flutter Mane, right? And he just goes for Dazzling Gleam. And I'm like, you just gonna let your Flutter Mane go to sleep? And I just lose my Dondozo and my Tera just like that. So now I'm in a bad spot. Even though his Flutter Mane's asleep, I don't have Dazzling Gleam on my Flutter Mane. And his Among Us can redirect my attacks away, right? But he doesn't know I don't have Dazzling Gleam. So Photosynthesis wears off and then my Booster Energy activates. Tailwind peers out. But now my Flutter Mane is the fastest on the field. Tatsugiri's faster than his Flutter Mane. And so the play that I expect him to go for here is to Rage Powder, right? But I don't believe that I have this game won from the fact that I don't have Dazzling Gleam. But he doesn't know that I don't have Dazzling Gleam. So he switches back out into Murkrow. And I go for Substitute, which puts me in a good spot if he goes for Spore into Flutter Mane. I go for Muddy Water. It doesn't do that much, and it's going to do even less with the Sun is up, right? But I do drop the accuracy of both. And he does go for Spore into my Flutter Mane. I avoid it, but I had Substitute up anyway, so it wouldn't have worked. So now I'm curious whether I should go for Moonblast and it redirects. But like I said again, he does not know that I don't have Dazzling Gleam because I haven't revealed it yet. But I know that, I can't really hit either one and knock out. I could knock out Murkrow with a Moonblast, but it can redirect me. So he goes for the safe Tailwind, which I thought he should have went for. He did that reading me going for a Dazzling Gleam, right? And KOing his Murkrow. So he just wanted to make sure that he got Tailwind up instead of the Sunny Day. Which helped me do more damage, right? Now this play was strange. Because had I had Dazzling Gleam and knocked out his Murkrow, then he would have just, wasted a Pollen Puff. But he does heal his Murkrow back up, so this game is still not over yet. But me just going for a Moonblast right there would have just, put me in a really good position. I was thinking about going for a Moonblast there, reading the Moongus switching out into Flutter Mane. But I go for Hex and then Muddy Water, right? Yeah. I had no choice but to click Muddy Water. So he hazes to get rid of his accuracy drops, right? Moongus survives with a little bit. But him not going for Sunny Day allows me, my Muddy Water to do a little bit more damage. Now he does have Tailwind up 2 turns, so his Flutter Mane outspeeds me, but it has not taken a turn of sleep yet. So Hex is double damage on that, 120 base power. Sunny Day reduces my Muddy Waters attack, but he's only getting a boost on Flutter Mane. But it has to take his first turn of sleep. And it does survive. Yep. So now he has a chance to wake up and he outspeeds me. But I go for Moonblast knowing that if it wakes up, it can only break my sub. And Murkrow can't beat my Flutter Mane 1v1. With it only having foul play. So we get that win, right? And then this is when I, go ahead and take a break. So that gets us to top rank 50. So we're going to move forward. So now we're going against Odin, and he has a scary team. He has Amarouge plus Indeedee, which Trick Room can be scary. But my Pokemon are relatively slow outside of my Flutter Mane, Glimmora, and Tatsugiri. Like my Ampharos, Ting Lu, and Dondozo are all slow, which make them pretty good in Trick Room, right? And my opponent has Iron Hands, Flutter Mane, Azumarill, and King Gambit. So King Gambit is a little bit scary for this team because I don't have great ways to deal with it. You can hit it with Flutter Mane Moonblast, but that's not. If it doesn't tear into Dark, then it's only a neutral hit. You can put it to sleep and try to Muddy Water it down, but if you get an accuracy drop, then its Sucker Punches are going to be doing a lot. I can hit it with Ting Lu, Stumping Tantrum. But if it tears into like a flying type or away from anything that's weak to, ground, then Ting Lu's not really doing that much damage to it, right? So King Gambit can be scary for this team. so they're going DD Ampharos. And I go Ting Lu, Dondozo again. This lead has been so strong for this team. Yeah. Now I remember this match being like extremely like close. Like, alright, so I go for yawn into that, and then I rock slide, trying to get a flinch. Let alone not knowing at this point that his Ampharos is not minimum speed. I'm actually happy that I didn't get the flinch here. Because he went for Trick Room. And then there's the rock slide that I told you I switched it over to. Right? Which is what I wanted on it. And I didn't want to put Heavy Slam on this set, which I do have Ting Lus that have Heavy Slam, but I wanted this Ting Lu specifically for this team. And I didn't have any more TMs or the materials to make Heavy Slam to put it on it. So that's why I went ahead and went with Rock Slide, which is something that it was able to just remember through leveling up. But yeah, I could not get Heavy. I would have liked Heavy Slam. So this is interesting. He set up Trick Room, but my Pokemon are slower than his. Which we realize right here. So I go for Yawn thinking he was going to switch out in DD, and he just goes for Helping Hand. And then I go for Fissure. Had Fissure hit right there, this game would have instantly been over, right? But he goes for a Helping Hand Energy Ball into my Dondozo, which is super scary. Takes me down to 26 HP. So now I'm in a bad spot. I underspeed him, but now I'm kind of like vulnerable. And DD does go to sleep. So my easiest win con here is to like double Fissure into the Ampharos, right? And just hope one hits. So DD tries to go for Follow Me, but it's asleep. Dondozo misses Fissure. Now I'm in trouble if this misses, right? But Ting Lu in the clutch hits the Fissure on the scary Ampharos. And Ampharos definitely was going to KO my Dondozo there. Or do a lot of damage to my Ting Lu, right? And I can't tear away from that. Their Energy Ball. So we clutch enough, hit another Fissure. That's our third Fissure of this stream. No, second Fissure. There's Iron Hands. So, you know, we're getting good fortune at this point. So I'm like, you know, let's just go for it again. What's it gonna hurt? And then I just yawn that slot. Just in case it missed. So if we get the yawn off, right? Close combat's me, but I survive. Clutch enough. Being, you know, max HP gives me a lot of HP. And then we hit a third Fissure. Second Fissure of this game, third Fissure of the video. So, and that's the power of this, you know, this Ting Lu Dondozo lead. Like, it's hard to knock out, and you don't have to go for the Fissures. You can go for like everything else but Fissures. But if you feel like you're in a bad spot, then you know the Fissures can help you. And it's just crazy because my opponent set up Trick Room, and it ended up benefiting me more than it benefited him. So at this point, both my Pokemon are low. Azumarill can KO either one with a Play Rough or a Liquidation. And DD wakes up. It gets to Follow Me off. I get another yawn into that slot. And we hit another Fissure. We hit 3 fissures in this game. I honestly think my opponent wins this match if I don't hit the fissures. But, you know, that's why this team has it. This team is not necessarily based on luck because, as I'm going to showcase in the later videos, the later matches, that it doesn't rely on fissures to win. But in this game, you know, fissure was my best option. And, you know, I just so happened that every time I yawned the Pokemon, I was able to hit it with a fissure. So if you have yawn and fissure, you should go for yawn and fissure and see if you can hit. Because it seems to be hitting when you go for that combo. But there's my Ampharos. And then my Ampharos just pretty much can 1v1 the Zoomerl. And I'm going to drop his speed every turn, so I start to outspeed it, right? And I can always growl it. Yeah, I go for growl first because we're still in Trick Room, right? Just to drop his attack, and then I start to go for electric webs, and then my Flutter main just cleans up in the end game. So that was a pretty fun match. I do believe that was actually my second match when I switched it to Rock Slide, and I got disconnected one match. Oh, it wasn't that match. It's another match, you know, where my rank is gonna, like, you know, skip a few spaces because I disconnected from a match. So I didn't put that into the stream because, you know, there's no point. It was a good match. It was actually against like a Halucha team with Ndidi, like the one that was used in a regional. But I got disconnected, so we don't know who would have won that match. So next we're up against Chi. And Chi has, you know, a scary team that looks just like Joe's team from Portland Regionals, but it has a Dragonite instead of the King Gambit. But it's still the Torkoal, Jump Bluff, it's Flutter Mane, Chien-Pao, and Great Tusk. And like I said, most of the time when I see Flutter Mane and Great Tusk on Sun teams, I always think there's Choice Specs and Choice Scarf. Focus Sash is probably on the Chien-Pao, maybe Choice Band, Assault Vest on Dragonite. Eject Pack on Torkoal, and Covert Cloak on Jump Bluff. So I leave my Ampharos here. And it's funny because this team is, you know, Ampharos team, but it hasn't came out in the first 2 matches. But I promise you it's going to show its worth, right? It's going to show what it can do. So what's going through your mind, Jose? I'm worried. I think in this match I'm a lot worried about the sleep powder, which is why I let Dondozo, so I have like the option to go for, like, you know, Grass Tera. And then I was worried about it leaving Great Tusk. And then I time out. I forgot this is the match I time out. So I'm stuck with Ampharos and Flutter Mane on lead with Glimmora and Dondozo on the back. So let's see, can we still pull this win off? This is crazy. I totally forgot that this is one of the matches I timed out. And I just honestly didn't know, like, what to lead against, like the Jump Bluff. But he ends up not even leading Jump Bluff. And so here I'm like, okay, I'm in a decent spot. Great Tusk gets an attack boost. So my Flutter Mane outspeeds it. But I don't know if it's Focus Sash or not, right? And I'm worried about a Tera. So I believe he's going to go for like Steel or Fire Tera. So I go for this and Thunder Wave, right? So this is to get around him going for, like, you know, Headlong Rush or Earthquake and protecting Torkoal, or switching Torkoal in the Jump Bluff, going for Earthquake and a Tera on Great Tusk. So I believe that his best option was to Tera Great Tusk into to Fire or Steel, switch out Torkoal or protect Torkoal into Jump Bluff, and go for Earthquake. And just deal like a lot of damage to Ampharos and Flutter Mane. That probably picks up a double KO, knowing that it's an attack boost in nature. But instead, he goes for the Tera on Torkoal, which is funny because this Torkoal has speed investment because it outspeeds my Ampharos. So I do go for Flying Terror just so I'm not hit by an Earthquake. And this tells me that he's definitely going for Earthquake. But the funny thing is just like, it turns out that he's not Focus Sash on this Great Tusk. So turn 1, I could have just eliminated Great Tusk. So this is kind of like a neutral turn, right? Even a Growl would have been good there. Or like a Thunder Wave or, you know, Electro Web into that slot. Yeah, so this turn ends up just being a neutral turn. But I'm like, the way he made that play to not Tera Great Tusk there lets me know that he's Focus Sash, right? So I'm like I gotta switch out. Like I can't stay in here, right? Because he's Focus Sash, and I'll go for Moonblast, and he's just gonna KO my Pokemon. Cause like I'm like, it's no way that he just lets me, like, he knows I'm speed boosting nature. So he knows I outspeed him. He saw the booster energy activate. And he's just gonna go for Helping Hand. Like I said, I could have just KO'd it turn 1 just going for a Moonblast there. So he switches out, and I'm just like, this guy's playing incredibly good. So my idea there was to sack my Glimmora and just let it get like the Toxic Spikes up. But he ends up switching it to Flutter Man. And he overheats my Ampharos, which does over 50. Drops his special attack. Alright. And it switches out. Now this turn is key for me in this entire game. This turn right here. And I'm going to explain why a little bit later. So he goes into Jump Bluff, which the sun is up, so it's going to be really fast. But we go for Electro Web to drop Flutter Mane speed by 1. Now that is very important for how this game is going to play out. So I'm like, at this point, you know, I kind of want to take the free KO on Jump Bluff just so it can't go for like Sleep Powder shenanigans. And this thing just, you know, completely demolishes my Ampharos. I don't believe I would have survived there with the sun being up, and with it most likely probably being Choice Specs Flutter Mane. But like I said, so Tailwind's up, right? But his Flutter Mane is at -1. -1 speed. So essentially, with Tailwind being up and it being at -1 speed, it's almost like Flutter Mane's at +1, right? But we saw that its booster energy activated its special attack, right? So that means that this Flutter Mane is a modest nature. It's not max speed. So it's +1 speed, right? It's +1 speed, but it's a modest nature. So he headlong rush that slot, does a good amount of damage, drop his own defense. And he KOs my Ting Lu. And I one-shot his, and this is when I realized that his Tusk isn't Focus Sash, right? And so I'm like, yo, turn 1, I could have just eliminated you. So we still have our booster energy intact. And the reason we still have booster energy intact is because Torkoal came out and set up the sun turn 1 when I had my Flutter Mane out. So I still got the speed boost because I'm timid nature, but it did not take up my booster energy. So now this is the turn where I go for the smart play, right? So I protect here. I believe I go for a double protect on both of them, right? And this is just me and my thoughts. And so I go for, I attack there knowing that I have the Focus Sash intact. So he does Moonblast my slot. So we Power Gem for, you know, chip damage. And he goes for the Fissure, and he hits, which I'm like, okay, well, that makes up for the fissures that I hit in the last match. You know, the 3 fissures. And so that's the 5th fissure hit on this video. Right, and Sunlight fades. So his special attack wears off, but because I'm booster energy, now I get my speed. And this is where Ampharos saved this game. Ampharos, that 1 speed drop, he never switched out his Flutter main, right? So his Flutter main Tailwind is still up, but his Flutter main is at -1. So it's essentially, like I said, at +1, but it's at +1 speed being Modest Nature. I'm at +1 speed being Timid Nature, so that means my Flutter main outspeeds his Flutter main, which allows me to hit the Hex. Now, had it been a Timid Nature, he could have moved before me, potentially, and with the Tailwind up, and got a Shadow Ball off. It would have been a speed tie, and he would have got a Shadow Ball off. And if he one-hit KOs my Flutter main, then, you know, my Glimmora can't beat both of them. Even though I knock out the Tusk, his Flutter main would just knock out my Glimmora next turn. So Ampharos came in the clutch with that 1 Thunder Wave that it was able to, not Thunder Wave, Electro Wave that it was able to get off, helped me win that game. And that's when Ampharos, you know, showed his value. Even though it was only Electro Web, that Electro Web helped me win that game. And this brought me to rank 47. So we're in top 50 with the Ampharos team. Even though, you know, the first 3 games, Ampharos didn't come. You know, the team that I made was built around Ampharos. And I, you know, found ways to make it, you know, more viable. So that it can set up its other teammates, you know, for success. And like I said, this is just, you know, my version of Ampharos team. If you feel like you can put this Ampharos on one of your teams with a similar set, or you feel like it's something else that can get better and it can be useful, just, you know, leave a comment, drop a video in the comments if you want. I'll go watch it if you have one recorded, and just let me know what your options would be. You know, I want to see Ampharos, you know, used competitively. I don't know if it'll be brought to a regional, but I would like to see, you know, just other people, you know, explore with it, because I do believe that it's a decent Pokemon. And in the format before Regulation D starts, a lot of things, the power level still, it's not low, but it's at a point where a lot of Pokemon can have niches, right? And they're not just overwhelmed by, you know, the power of the format. And Ampharos is surprisingly bulky, especially next to Ting Lu, right? All right, so Dab Ketchum. So this guy, I remember, I loved his name. One of the coolest names I've seen. Right? And this is going to be our final match of the day. So I'm like, okay, Palafin Balance, Arcanine, Palafin, Bascalibur, Fluttermane, Amoonguss, and Ting Lu. So I know that he wants to bring Palafin, right? And Palafin on lead. Palafin always comes on lead because I have Dondozo and Tatsugiri, right? And the only reason Palafin wouldn't come to this match is if it didn't have Haze and he had Clear Smog on Amoonguss. And Amoonguss is pretty scary for my team. It can be pretty annoying if you don't get rid of it immediately. And I don't have a lot of ways to remove it immediately, but you can play around it with all the bulk that you have. And so, in my eyes, I feel like it's Haze Palafin, right? So, I always want Tatsugiri to be my last one. And the thing that I love about this video that I'm putting out is that I was able to use each and every Pokemon on this team, right? I brought each one of them to the game. And a lot of times that doesn't happen with some teams where, you know, it just wasn't a good day for them. But I was happy that today, making this, you know, that I was able to bring each and every one to the match. All right, so Dab Ketchum, let's see what you got. It's funny, his character looks almost exactly like mine, right? Just with black hair. We both got the braids and the glasses. Alright, so Flutter Mane and Amoonguss, turn 1. So I know I want to paralyze the Flutter Mane, so my Flutter Mane always comes in the end game and just KOs it with a Hex. And then we want to yawn the Amoonguss. So he's going for Spore. So we hit the Thunder Wave, which is crucial, right? So now his Flutter Mane has to play around Sleep. He puts to sleep my Ampharos because he's afraid of it. He doesn't really know what to expect from it. And then we get the yawn off on Amoonguss. So this turn went very good for me. Even though I got put to sleep, Ampharos got the Thunder Wave off and I got a yawn off, right? So now he has to start moving around his pieces. So there's the Electro Web just to slow down his Flutter Mane even more. I thought about switching him. I was like, nah, if he just, Moonblast into that Slidus, that hurts, right? Hurts everything I have in the back, which he does. He doesn't get paralyzed, and we drop down to 40 HP. And now my Dondozo takes a nap because Amoonguss outspeeds me. But like I said, my Dondozo was built for Trick Room, and it was the only set that that I had that I was able to use alongside the Storm Drain Tatsugiri. So that's why I added it to this team, because it's a strategy I used back in Series 1, Regulation A, when I was like kind of bluffing Commander Tatsugiri, and so it's the only Donzo I have that's like a set like this that fits this team. So that's why I brought it. So if you are to use the rental code for this team, just know that Donzo gets outspelled by Amoonguss, but you can play around that with the Grass Tera. So Amoonguss switches out. There's Palafin. Now he's probably expecting me to switch in Tatsugiri there, so I go for Protect. I do wake up, which is clutch, right? If I don't wake up there, then my Dondozo just gets knocked out immediately. And I wake up on Ampharos. I get the clutch Thunder Wave off. Does a good amount to Palafin. Chip it down in the range of, like, if it get paralyzed again, KO by Hex or Moonblast. My Dondozo heals a little bit up. Now, at this point, I'm like, okay, Flutter Mane has moved 3 times since it's been paralyzed and has not got fully paralyzed. I'm like, I have to be due for 1, right? So I go for Fissure, reading that it's going to switch out back into Amoonguss, right? There's Amoonguss. But Amoonguss is sleeping. And he doesn't get paralyzed again and KOs my Dondozo. So I'm like, wow. That's 4 attacks straight that he just, doesn't get paralyzed. Or was it 3? It might have been 3. But we dropped Flutter Mane speed again. So at this point, Flutter Mane is extremely slow. It's paralyzed and it's -2 speed. But it's not like I was going to need the speed to outspeed it anyway. But now here's my Flutter Mane. And now I can start clicking Hex because everything's paralyzed, right? So now it's time for us to start, KOing everything on the field. And this is where, this was one of the funnest matches that I'm glad I got to record. I was so upset that my voice wasn't recording. I was like, I got to get this content out. Like, I have to get this video posted. Because this really showcases, how good Ghost Tera Flutter Mane can be. Alongside Ampharos and Dondozo and Storm Drain Tatsugiri. And it's really good into the balance team. Because I actually felt like this whole game, like I kind of had like the upper hand. And at this point, I'm like, his Flutter Mane has to be choice specs, right? If he leaves it in here, he doesn't protect, it's definitely choice specs. But I still went after it. And so I Tera into Ghost, and he's probably like, Ghost Tera Flutter Mane? Wow, I've never seen that. But you're going to see why. So he doesn't protect it, which is good, so we go for the correct play. And now all I'm hoping right here is that Amoonguss doesn't wake up and spoil my Flutter Mane, right? I could have went for a substitute there, reading that Flutter Mane was going to protect. But I had a feeling that it wasn't. Right? And I went for the Thunder Wave there. I guess in case the Amoonguss woke up or in case he switched out Amoonguss. But I forgot that, I outspeed Amoonguss. So I'm pretty sure I went for that Thunder Wave reading that Amoonguss or maybe switch out. Because, I mean, I guess I could have went for an Eerie Impulse to drop Amoonguss special attack or like Electro Web. But it really didn't matter what Ampharos did at that point, right? All right, so we're still not out of the woods yet. So I know that Excalibur wants to Tera here, right? It wants to Tera, and now it knows it can hit my Flutter Mane with a Glavine Rush. So I know that he wants to KO my Flutter Mane. So there's the Tera. And so to be honest, the Ghost Tera hasn't helped me yet. Because Hex would have KO'd Flutter Mane right there anyway because it didn't terrestrialize and it was paralyzed, right? So it was going to kill there anyway. So I go for sub here. Now I'm in trouble if Amoonguss wakes up and spores my Flutter Mane, right? Because he breaks my sub. So this turn is crucial. If Amoonguss wakes up here, I think I lose the game, right? We get Thunder Wave off. So now that guy is not going to be moving, right? And Amoonguss stays asleep. Beautiful. So we did get some sleep turn rolls there. So now I believe Amoonguss definitely wakes up next turn, right? It took 2 turns of sleep already. Electro Web there. And we go for Hex here. Now, mind you guys, this is Ghost Tera boosted Hex, and he's paralyzed. And that's a 1-hit KO. Beautiful 1-hit KO. And this is why you should give Booster Energy, which is, Booster Energy Speed, Ghost Tera, Hex, Flutter Mane, try it out. Because it's fun. We just picked up a 1-hit KO on a Pokemon that's, super bulky. It's the poison variant. So it has bulk on it. And now this is checkmate. Even though Amoonguss stayed asleep an extra turn, even if it spoiled me right here, I would have still been in a winning position, right? Because I have Storm Drain Tatsugiri in the back. So even if he had put my Flutter Mane to sleep, the previous turn where it stayed asleep when he Glavine rushed my Flutter Mane was the most pivotal turn. Because now Palafin can't do anything, right? And now I just get a special attack boost on Tatsugiri. Check this out. 1-hit KO Amoonguss from about 85% health left, right? And because it was sleep, I was still able to pick up the KO. But even if it didn't KO, or if it had woke up next turn, the previous turn, I couldn't get that Hex damage off. Palafin could never hit my Flutter Mane because Tatsugiri's on the field, so that was just checkmate. And even though Tatsugiri didn't get an attack off in this game, it literally checkmate this game for me because had I not had Tatsugiri, that Palafin could have jet punched my Flutter Mane and 1-hit KO'd it. And then, I would not have been able to probably win that game in the end game with what I had left. The Ampharos and the Tatsugiri probably couldn't beat Amoonguss and Palafin, right? If that was Commander Tatsugiri. So there we have it. And, that was this team. I hope you all enjoyed it. This is a little bit something different. This is my first time doing a voiceover over one of my own videos. So that's why, the background looks a little bit different because I didn't want to have double the same background. So I changed the background a little bit because I'm going over a recording. But this team is fun. If you want to give it a try, I definitely recommend it. There's a rental code below as well as a PokePaste in case you want to try it on Showdown. Give it a try. I believe that, this team is capable of getting, like top 10 on the ladder. It's very consistent, even though it does have Fissure. Just the Thunder Waves and the Poisons and the Flutter Mane, the playing around it, is just very fun. If you watch these videos, you'll actually see, how I was able to use Flutter Mane in that way because it's not just something that you can just, I'm just going to leave Flutter Mane and go for the Hex, Ghost Tera Hex. You have to bring Flutter Mane in the back and KO things. So I hope all of you enjoyed this video. And if you loved it, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe. And I'll catch you on the next one. All right, deuces.